Hey friends, we are back reading the Catholic Bible for Children. And just a little recap, we are reviewing the Catholic Bible for Children because I think it's really important to understand the way that religious groups and the Bible is used for many religious groups. Similar stories in other books such as the Quran, but what I am familiar with is the Bible, and especially these stories in the children's Bible. But the way that we use pretty words and pictures and stories to really groom younger people and older people, but like this is written specifically for children. So we groom them to be much more easily manipulated and to be much more likely to be in and stay in abusive relationships, because ultimately, if you've listened to the last couple of videos that I've done, we've talked about the creation story, we've talked about the serpent, we've talked about Cain and Abel, we've talked about Noah and Noah's Ark. And the main name of this game is that God created us perfectly in his image, and yet we suck. And we are constantly working to please him now. We've got this one story in like the very beginning of the Bible where, and I will say this again and again, it's like God set Adam and Eve up in a garden. They didn't know right from wrong. We know this because there was a tree planted that God didn't want them to eat that taught them about right and wrong. And if he didn't want them to know about good and evil, right and wrong, that means that they didn't know about it, right? Logically, they couldn't have known what right and wrong, good and evil is until they ate from the tree. So he created them without that knowledge. They ate from the tree, and he forever, you, according to religion, are still paying for that disobeying that Eve, we blame it on Eve, right? Adam and Eve both ate from the apple, but apparently Eve was tricked by the serpent. Anyway, that's our review, right? We're just constantly, from day one, repenting, apologizing, saying we're sorry for being so broken, for being so awful, and thank you, God, for being the only one that can make us whole and good again, right? And when we talk about good and evil, what I've seen so far in these stories is that good and evil doesn't seem to have like a real moral compass at all. There's just loyalty. It's like disobeying God is evil and sinful. There's not like a right versus wrong situation here at this point. There's so much about loyalty. In fact, Noah and his family survived because Noah's loyal. Noah never disobeys God. They don't say he doesn't sin. They don't say he's not an asshole. They don't say he's a good person. They just say he doesn't disobey God. And that's a very clear message that you have to obey God, or else what? We flood the earth. There's some more stories in here about what will happen. Let's see, for Adam and Eve, they were shunned. They were kicked out of the garden. They were there was distance created between them and God, to the point where by the time we get to Noah and his ark, right, they have to write a sentence in there that's like, God remembered Noah and his ark. Like now God's not even paying attention to us anymore. He's so disappointed with us that he has killed everyone and all the animals. He's like, oh my God, humans suck. Gonna kill all of them except this one guy and his family, because like they suck less. They obviously suck a little bit because we are the descendants, and apparently we're not wholly forgiven for the mistakes that Eve and Adam made, right? So it's this real cycle that's happening, right? It's our fault that we're broken. It's our fault that we're sinners and we're evil. That's all our fault, even though God created everything, which the apologetics will say God allows evil. But the truth is, if God created everything, evil is a part of everything. The serpent is a part of everything. Everything means everything. So God created everything. It means he created the things that he says are evil. He didn't have to if he's God. What's his thoughts on this? So, just a review, right? This is how we are taught to only obey authority without question, and to understand inherently that we are we are at fault. Most likely it's my fault. Most likely I've sinned. Most likely I need to say I'm sorry and I need to make it better. Most likely that's what's happening here, right? Because that's what I've been taught from day one. I'm broken. I need to apologize. I need to confess. I need to do better so that I can get closer to God, who is so loving that he hasn't totally disowned me yet because of the sins of my great whatever Eve is to us, right? So just a review. So next on our list, right? Noah has survived the flood, and he has brought with him his 3 sons and his wife, and finally the floodwaters go away. And next story in this book is the Tower of Babel, right? Right now I'm showing the picture. There's like a tower. There's some folks working on the tower. They're probably like making bricks, right? Oh, everybody looks, they're just working. I don't know. These people have spears. I guess we'll find out about that, although that doesn't make too much sense. Okay, so we're building a tower. But this is on the tail end of Noah and the ark. So, the Tower of Babel. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were the founders of the various peoples who populated the earth. Each of them founded his own branch of humanity, and they each guided them to their eventual homes. This is how they came to live all over the earth. These people began to be different from one another, but everyone still understood each other because there was only one language on the earth. Eventually, all the descendants of Noah gathered together on the plain in the east that is called Shinar. They decided to build a city, and they wanted to construct a tower in the center of it. Sounds great. Gathering place. The tower was to be so high that it would reach the heavens. God immediately understood that they didn't respect and love him the way that they should have. A lot to say about that. They were filled with pride and arrogance. God decided to prevent them from building their tower. Instead of punishing men by killing them or destroying what they owned, the Lord only confused them. Oh, thanks, Lord, this time around, because he did kill everyone last time around. So he confused them. He gave each nation a different language that others could not understand. This meant that when the carpenter spoke to the bricklayer, he could not understand him. When the architect spoke to the workers, they could not understand him either. The workers, not being able to understand each other, could not keep up the pace. Soon, they even abandoned their project. The city where that great tower was supposed to be built was called Babel. To this day, we say that someone is babbling when we cannot understand what that person is saying. That's so cute. People were frustrated because they could not do what they wanted to do. They even became foreigners to each other because we consider people who speak a different language to be foreign. Each group of people went its own way, going to live in different parts of the world. So it seems to me that the purpose of this story is to teach us that we shouldn't be prideful and arrogant, thinking that we could build a tower up to the heavens. God, I guess, it says he just knew that they were being prideful and arrogant, and so again, he punishes in a way that punish for generations. So here's this group of people who understand each other and can work together and are not othering each other because they can all understand the same language, and they're working together. These three, right? Apparently, there's three sons, and so there's people all over the world, and they all come together to do a project together, and they want to make it real big. And God's like, yeah, no. In fact, I'm going to make it so you can't understand each other. And that's, I don't know, that seems a little isolating to me. It seems very um like like now we have teams, and it seems like the way that this story is written, right? Like it's okay to have teams, right? Like you can have two volleyball teams, and they don't have to like hate each other. But it seems like these teams, like now that we're in these separate groups, we don't understand each other, and now we're like afraid of each other in a way. It's like it's a real weird story, and I know like it's supposed to be like teach about pride and arrogance, I guess, but like I don't I have a real I just the idea that having big ideas or believing in yourself, like having a big imagination to be like, what, like we all work together so well. Like look at our badass like construction workers. If we all work together, we could build a ginormous tower and it would be so cool. And God's like, no, no, no. For some reason, there's something wrong with that. You decide for yourself. Would love to hear in the comments what you think about this story, the Tower of Babel, as well as the claim that babbling comes from this story, as well as anything else that we've spoken about so far in the previous episodes, or in what I shared about in the beginning, where it's really setting us up for manipulation and abuse. I will see you next time. We are going to be talking about Abraham.